The Pope and Young Club wants to welcome you as we rally together to ensure our bow hunting opportunities for today and tomorrow. You've come to the podcast that believes in preserving, protecting, and promoting the passion for bow hunting. Join us as we strive to be the voice of today's bow hunter. This is the Pope and Young Podcast. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Pope and Young Podcast. Joined as always by my co-host Tim Razewski, and we've got Fred Swizzlestick Sweisthal.
That's me.
Fred.
I thought you weren't.
You should have never told us that.
You should have told me it's old Swizzlestick, because that's gonna stick, bud.
Don't forget the Swiss cheese nickname too, or
Swiss cheese, all of them.
Fast Fred, yeah, all that stuff, yeah.
I was asking Fred how to pronounce his last name, so I didn't want to mess up. And yeah, we got off on a tangent. So now we got Swizzlestick Sweisthal over here.
And that's where we learned that Dylan likes Hallmark movies.
You know, hey, I stand by that too. I love, you know. I told Tim maybe shouldn't have that. I finally made a public announcement. It wasn't even on my podcast. It wasn't even on the Pope and Young podcast. I was a guest on another podcast. And they asked me something. They said, tell us something about yourself that, you know, people don't know. And I said, well, from Thanksgiving Day until Christmas Day, I watch a Hallmark movie every day, pretty much like a vitamin. Good for the soul.
I like it.
You
So,
probably
Tim,
watched the parade on TV too.
I have watched a Hallmark movie sitting in a tree stand before. I'm not going to lie. I've been there, done that. Check mark, done it. So, Fred, for those of you who don't know, Fred has just killed a new world record. It was just verified. If you listen to last week's episode, we talked about the new world record, Roosevelt's elk in velvet. Now we've got the Canadian moose in velvet, killed by Mr. Fred Sweisthal. It was verified down in Texas at our Bow Hunter Bash, along with the Roosevelts. Fred, congratulations, man. I know we told you that down there several times, but congratulations on a beautiful, beautiful bull.
Never enough, Dylan. Tell me again. I like it.
I will. I'll send you a text today, man. Congrats. Until
all right, I'm waiting. No, not really. It's all joking aside. You know, it's a great thing. It's a great thing to have. It's something that I never would have, I never thought we'd be sitting here talking about this. And first and foremost, I want to thank you, Dylan, and you, Tim, and all the people who were in College Station and the people that gave their hard time and hours and all that, measuring my moose, panel measuring. They were laying on the ground, looking up at it, different angles and all this and that. I tried not to look. I tried, when I look, to kind of look like this through my fingers, because I wanted to know.
We told you couldn't watch. What were you doing? Cheating?
Well, I was inside the building every once.
You were inside looking out the window. I knew it.
He had binoculars, though. I saw him
one time, and then I walked away. I said, I can't watch this anymore. And then I went and measured animals and helped people, and helped sign a lady up, you know, for the Pope and Young Club and all this stuff, and answered questions and things like that. But yeah, I want to thank everybody that was a part of this. And I don't remember everyone's names. I know there was Dallas Smith. There was Roy something, president.
Yeah.
Right? And then Larry the Legend.
Larry Legend.
Say his name. And just everyone. It was phenomenal. And I really encourage everyone to be a part of Pope and Young that is a bow hunter, because look, if I get rambling on, y'all tell me, but you know, I listened to a few Pope and Young podcasts, and I heard some different point of views on different things, and one particular person said that they didn't feel that bow hunting was really under attack. Well, in a roundabout way, I feel that it is. And the reason is because yes, the antis are going after hunting in general, and secondly, the gun advocates, they're going after trying to take our guns away from us, and they're doing that by trying to stop hunting. So when they stop hunting for rifle hunters, our hunting's going to stop too. So Pope and Young, to make this little shorter, Pope and Young has got our back as a bow hunter, and I think everybody needs to get with it and join Pope and Young, be a part of it, and save the sport that we so duly love. I'm going to stop right there.
My gosh, ambassador of the year right there. It's so neat. Every time I've talked to Fred, just since I contacted him about the moose and getting the special panel done, he's been an advocate for bow hunting and a Pope and Young supporter. Heck, while his moose is getting verified, he's signing people up. That is just great.
Yeah.
I know that Dallas Smith and Roy Grace, Jack Culpepper, Ricky Kruger, and Larry Strife all enjoyed and had a blast measuring those two trophies, especially down there on the asphalt, laying down and doing length of palms on moose. I mean,
who was that was laying down anyway?
Oh, that I don't know which one it was. All of them at one time had to do that, because you have to get to the edge of the palm, and that bull is so large and it's on a shoulder mount that it's not easy to handle. And so it requires a little bit of maneuvering, and even Larry Legend at his experienced age had no problems getting after that. And so we thank you, Fred, for not just being another hunter who has a trophy in the book and that's it, but truly believes in the organization and ready to step up and do more, as we'll soon learn.
Well, absolutely, Tim, and I'll do whatever I can to support the club. I've been not a bow hunter, but I've been shooting a bow since I was 13 years old, and shortly thereafter, I was starting to hunt, and it was with a Shakespeare recurve that I found in my best friend's closet. And I said, "Hey, what is this?" He said, "I'll take it. I never shoot it." I said, "Are you kidding me?" And my brother was already into archery. And so the two just, it was not any time at all. Two went hand in hand. Next thing you know, I've got a hay bale in my backyard, and I'm out there every day just shooting. And, and I stunk at it. I'll be honest with you. I did. And, if I hit the paper plate at 10 yards, it's like, oh my gosh, I was thrilled, but that doesn't quite cut it. But
you've obviously gotten better.
I've gotten a little better.
Improved.
Yeah, I've gotten a little better. Funny story though, I almost missed that moose. Yeah.
Well, there's even more to this story, Dylan, that maybe you haven't heard. He wasn't even on a moose hunt.
No, I wasn't.
Wait, what?
Nope, wasn't even on a moose hunt. So I booked a stone sheep hunt. And as we all know, those are not cheap. Of course, it was a little cheaper back then. I shot this moose 5 years ago. And so I show up and I'm sitting in the airplane hangar, and I've hunted with this outfitter previously. And so we start talking, and we're going to fly out in the Beaver. And so the pilot wasn't ready yet and so forth. So we're talking, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, there's this really big moose that's over on the lake that we're going to land on. And that cabin will be kind of your, home base type thing." I said, "Okay." And I said, "But I have a Canadian moose." And he goes, "Oh, no, this is a really good one." I said, "But I have one." And, hunts aren't cheap. So I said, and I need to put my money to work in the best way possible on other things towards a super slam, which I was pursuing. And so we went round and round, and I said, "Look, you got to make me a super deal then if I'm even going to look at this moose, because I don't need
You got to make me a super deal."
Yeah, I said, "I don't need another moose." And I'm just thinking moose, right? And I've killed a lot of moose. And so anyway, so we go over there. Long story short, we were hunting out of this cabin, and we were like day hunting basically. And we had to walk like I don't know, 10 miles in, 10 miles out. We weren't getting back to the cabin like at 1 o'clock in the morning after, you know, jumping over streams and logs and climbing the mountains and dealing with the shale. And I mean, just we were just plain worn out. We had to walk all these miles before we even got to the mountains to where we could start climbing and looking for sheep. And so it was day 3 or something. And so I wake up and the guide's laying over there and I look at him and he's sawing logs, right? And I go, well, like he's worn out and still tired. Well, so am I. So I go back to sleep. We sleep in that day. So we wake up and have a lunch or whatever. And then he says, hey, you want to go hunt that moose? I said, well, we can't go, it's too late now to go running into the mountains and try to stone sheep hunt. So let's go down there and look at him. So we go down there and we take the boat down there and we get out and we walk over and we find some trails and stuff. It looks like they were coming out of this real thick area and they were walking into the end of this marshy end of the lake and they're feeding in there. So we said, well, let's set up a little ground blind over here, or brush blind, so we kind of break some branches and all that. And we figure out where we think the moose is going to come. And we're sitting there and then, oh, I don't know, a couple hours go by and all of a sudden, oh, there's a moose. Oh my gosh, is that the one? And it goes, it's got to be. This thing's giant. There was no question about, are you going to shoot him? Get out of my way. Next thing you know, I'm drawing. How far is he? And I don't remember, 35, 40 yards, whatever he was. Moose is as big as a house. How can you miss? And well, dummy me, I didn't wait until he stopped walking because he looked like he wasn't going to. And he was right perfect broadside. And so if he kept walking into the marsh, he's going to technically get farther and farther away from us. So it's now or never. So I shot and it wasn't a perfect shot. And I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And the guy's like, well, hang on a minute, hang on. Look, he's slowing down. And I said, oh, he is. And then he stops. Next thing you know, he's on the ground. I said, oh my word, you kidding me? So yeah, I was very lucky, very lucky.
That's incredible.
A walking shot, and they have long legs, so they cover a lot of ground fast. They got to be careful. They're you don't think they're moving that fast, but they really are.
All right, Tim. What was the final score? What was the final score of the moose?
But here's the thing. First, here's the thing. You shot it 5 years ago. You knew it was a giant moose. You were even willing to kill a moose on a sheep hunt.
Yeah.
And you don't get them measured for 5 years.
What's the problem?
How big, it's velvet. Was it maybe an inch bigger? I don't know. All kidding aside, did you really have any idea that it would be anywhere near a world record at the time?
No, Tim, because, people hunt for different reasons. And I hunt because I love sitting here like with you and with Dylan. And I tell you what I shot this year or what experience I had last year or 5 years ago. And then you tell me yours. And then I go, oh yeah, now remember this. That's what I get out of it. I've never been a person to brag nor do I care what somebody else knows that I've shot or haven't shot. I'm just not that guy. But and for that reason, I'll be honest, I have not been entering my animals into Pope and Young. Well, recently I killed a number 2 Thule elk. And so I promised the landowner that I would enter it into Pope and Young. And so I did. And I think that might have been my first one, unless I put my brown bear in there. I just don't remember. But then it kind of made me think, all of my animals should be in there. So we do have record. And not only that, we're not all going to be on this planet forever. And somebody can look back one day and go, oh yeah, there's that old Fred guy. I didn't know he shot a moose that big, or he had
Right.
a big brown bear, or that Tim guy, or that Dylan. Oh yeah, there's Dylan. And, so it means a
Hey,
lot.
Dylan, he's really putting you on the spot now. There's Dylan. He's like,
Crap.
well, I keep shooting 120, so
Come on,
Crap.
Dylan. You gotta stretch that deer a little bit. You gotta
I'm
stretch.
trying. Tim won't let me.
well,
Tim
Dylan,
keeps
the
me in
bull
check.
finished out at a final score of 181 and 0.8. And when you look at Velvet Records, I think one thing that you have to keep in mind is that with many species, um, velvet hunting that some species in velvet is very hard to do. They're just like we mentioned in the Roosevelt podcast. There's not a lot of opportunity to get after Canadian moose and velvet. Usually the hunts are a little later. And years ago, there were more opportunities for velvet season, to hunt during the velvet season than there are now. If you look back at a lot of the hardhorn entry field photos of mule deer, many of those were killed in velvet back in the day. We weren't recognizing world records or ranking velvet, and Boone and Crockett doesn't accept velvet entry, so they were stripping the velvet. That may have happened with a lot of moose as well. So when you look at a Roosevelt and go, oh my gosh, the world record is, 324, but the hardhorn is 391. Well, you just don't have very many opportunities to see a Roosevelt elk in velvet. Same is true with Canadian moose. If you're online and watching people follow Fred's and another big moose that was just killed in North Dakota, a lot of people are saying that we may never see big velvet moose like this again, because in British Columbia, where Fred killed this bull, I believe, if I correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, I don't think you can hunt that early for moose anymore there.
You're right. You're correct in saying that, Tim. As far as I know, the only place you can get an early season velvet moose is Canadian moose is in the States. Now there's the line dips down there, and that's, well, like the other one that was in question, contention. That was killed in the States, and as far as being actually in Canada, that is not available any longer. And actually, when I was sitting there in that airplane hangar speaking to my guide, and he was telling me about this moose, I said, "Wait a minute, no." I said, "Moose season is in September." I said, "Not in August. This is sheep season." He goes, "No, there's a special season and you can shoot them now in velvet." And I said, "No." And I made him show me. I didn't believe it because I wasn't going to get in trouble over it. Right.
Right.
And so yeah, but that door is closed. Yeah.
Well, and I will say all props to our other hunter there that killed that great bull in North Dakota. It'll get called to panel. I mean, and likely, very likely. I mean, almost not even in question, but you never know. Will be the new number 2, and it's another giant as well. It's just that I think it's
It
another.
is. It's a giant of a moose. It
Yeah,
is
it's another
awesome.
testament that wildlife management is working, and to see quality animals like this still being harvested. I'm not taking it away from whitetail, but there's just so many whitetail that management really isn't completely in the hands of game and fish in a lot of respects. But for moose, especially a species that does cross international boundaries and state boundaries, and right just in that area, let alone British Columbia, you've got 4 or 5 different entities that are managing the species on their own, or maybe in correlation with each other, but they're doing a good job. But for a reason, I have not fished it out or looked into it. They've moved or removed that special hunt that Fred was on, and we might not see another giant Canadian moose and velvet for a while. You never know.
It, Tim, there's another aspect of this, and I know people have probably beaten this to death, but outside of a draw or outside of a local Canadian, hunting the moose, getting a tag. First of all, he's got to be an archer. can't be a crossbow guy, right? You got to be a compound or recurve guy. And second of all, you got to draw a tag, or you have to purchase. And when it comes to these hunts with an outfitter, these I own Quality Hunts, and we're a booking company, and I we talk about it daily. These hunts are getting more and more and more expensive, and the average guy cannot afford this. So the number of people that even have an opportunity to go and get that world record is getting less and less by the day. So
Fair
it's
enough. Fair enough.
going to be more and more difficult to overtake any of the world records that are high dollar, right? It's just
Right.
the way it is. So
Well, I'll tell you myself, I've always dreamed of hunting moose. I would never even fathom that I would ever even have an opportunity to see a record, echelon, upper echelon, top 10, whatever moose on a hunting trip. I just want to go moose hunting and experience it and get a moose and all that. And to me, it's just an interesting story that you were after another species, an opportunity rose, and here we are talking about it.
well, and the way it actually came to be was purely by accident. So a guide that works for the outfitter was on Instagram, and he ran across my Instagram page and saw that moose. And so he sent me a personal message, and he asked if I'd ever had that moose measured. And I said, nope, I never have. And well, I had it measured SEI, which was for Ovis. And but other than that, not for Pope and Young, I had not. And so he said, you probably need to do that. I said, that thing's a giant. And I said, okay. And so then I went on polar bear hunt, and I'm laying there in bed one day waiting for ice fog to clear out, and this moose thing started eating away at me. And I go, you know what? I gotta measure that thing. Maybe is this hunt over with yet? Who's wishing their polar bear hunt was over? so so anyway, I wanted to get home and get this thing measured. So I did, and I'm climbing up on the wall, on the ladder, and I'm measuring this moose hanging on the wall. And I have some measuring experience, and my brother is there, and he's writing down the measurements, and another guy's there who used to be a Pope and Young measurer, and I call out all these measurements, and they say, yeah, it looks like you're doing it right. And they add it all up, and they said, new world record. I said, you gotta be kidding me. Exactly quote what I said. And it had been hanging there for 5 years.
Yeah. So then you got a hold of Mr. Skinner and said, you better come do this officially.
Right, exactly. And then
that's cool.
And then we had the point in question, and you guys wanted to know about that point, whether it was an abnormal point or not, coming off the bottom of the palm. And so I took more pictures. Robert came back over. We measured him again, and then I think we measured 2 or 3 times before we finally brought it to College Station and went before panel. Yep.
Yeah, moose. You want to ensure that something happens. Tell the world you're never going to break. You've never broken a leg. We all know that that's bad luck for me. Tell the world that, man, we don't see very many abnormal points on moose very often. And now yours and that moose from North Dakota, another moose that's came in, and one that just got submitted today, all have abnormal points. Now they're not velvet, and some of them are licensed, but I didn't see very many abnormal points on the moose that I've been seeing come through over the last couple of years, and now 4 out of the last 6. So abnormal points on moose are rare. The nice thing, if everyone doesn't understand how to measure moose, we're unlike deer and elk, where we reward mass and symmetry. With moose, we reward width and palmation. And so all the little points that you see on a moose, if they qualify as a point, you only get 1 point, or essentially an inch for them. And so one abnormal point is really only and inch deduction. So it doesn't really hurt you all that much. And it's pretty cool character. So
Yep. Yep. It's, I didn't, I mean, I know quite a bit about measuring. I'm not an expert by any means, but I did not know the abnormal. There's two things about a moose I did not know. One was the abnormal point coming off the bottom of the palm, and I've seen moose that it's quite obvious they have one coming off of the center of the palm, right? Well, all right, that's abnormal. But in both of these cases of the velvet moose that were in question, mine and the one in South Dakota,
North Dakota,
North Dakota, North Dakota.
I believe.
Both of those had the same abnormal point, like you mentioned, and they were there was a real gray area there. Was it abnormal? Was it not? And so I was not aware of that, and I was not aware of the inch. What it had to be longer. The point has to be longer than it is wide. I didn't know
The
about
definition of any point on a deer or elk or any antlered animal is that at 1 inch or more, so at an inch, inch and an eighth, inch and 2/8, 5 inches, whatever,
Mhm.
at an inch or more, the length has to exceed the width at some point. So until the point runs out, like on a moose, if it just continually goes like this and it never is longer than it is wide, then it's not a point. So a lot of mature moose up on top of their palms will have a lot of those wavy points that aren't points. And the the theory or the presumption or the experience is that when you have a moose that has a lot of points, usually the palm isn't as wide or as mature or as long. So you're going to lose in palm width and length. But if they have nubbed points up on top, you've probably got more palmation, which you're going to get rewarded for with width and length palm.
Yeah, in reality, the number of points on a moose doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, it all
Yeah.
adds, but
Yeah. I mean,
you
the
know,
average big moose that is in our books is somewhere in that realm of 10 to 13 points on each side. There are some that are in the 8 and some that are in the 17, but on average, it's in that 10 to 13 range. And so there's 26 points right there. And there is a difference from left to right. So in your case, I believe we were at 12 and 10. So you essentially, if you will, got credit for 20 of those.
Mhm. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about your moose hunts, Dylan? Like
Yeah,
mine?
all of them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
All of
I've
them.
been passing world records daily. They bore me.
I've hit and killed every moose I've ever shot at. I can tell you
Me
that.
too. Me too. I don't even know how you get rattled.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. You're better than me.
Tim, you never told us final score. What was the final score of the moose?
181 and 0/8.
Now, how far did that surpass the past world record?
I believe it's 11 or 21 inches. The Peterson bull, I believe, was 169 or 159. While you're talking about other things, I'll verify that.
169.
169. Okay.
Yes, sir. They might have had some eights, but that brings up something. Um, so well, I'll let you go ahead and do that first. Tell
No,
me.
go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
We'll see.
I'm listening.
You can multitask.
I can do that. I'm still doing it. I'm still listening.
No, you go ahead. No, I'll let you take over. Go ahead.
All right. Well, we'll have to. Yeah.
After that.
The final score on that bull is 168 and 0/8.
160. Oh, 168 and 0.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So what I was going to bring up, so you guys panel measured my moose as a 181, correct? In 0/8.
That is the final net score. Yeah.
And Robert Skinner and I, I was just helping hold the moose, but anyway, Robert measured the moose at 182.
Yes.
Now, isn't there a margin of error in there or shrinkage or whatever? And how does that come into play? I mean, like,
So
will my moose go in the book as 181 or 182?
181.
Okay.
181 is the official final score. At special panel or panel, our goal is not to come up with a new score. It's not to change the score. It's to verify that what the original measure did was
Okay.
correct in point determinations and measurements. Now, we know that shrinkage happens, and that if an animal is off an eighth of an inch here, an eighth of an inch there, that the measure did measure it correctly, and more shrinkage could have taken place.
Mhm.
But in this case, we had the abnormal point that was deemed a typical point. Both panel teams said it was abnormal, and then we found two parallel spots on both palms that were, and we even measured them, obviously, that were equally as parallel. And on both palms, one of them was slightly longer than the other. And the original measure, we felt, used the other ones because we could reproduce that. They were really close to those numbers. So we found, although we lost a couple points because of the abnormal point,
Right.
and the difference, we gained a little bit back in some length of palm. And that was really the only difference. If we find a measurement at a panel that is 2, 3, 4 inches longer than what the original measure had, we try to determine what it is that they did to get that measurement. But certainly, when we talk about shrinkage or drying time, an animal doesn't, or a point doesn't grow. So we can make adjustments and do occasionally at panels. At our recent panel in February in Reno, we had about 168 animals that we panel measured. 19 scores went down, 20 scores went up, and 131 or something like that, the original score held. So a lot of that is velvet, moose, caribou things. Most of the changes are in those type of categories, or velvet or those species.
Mhm.
Length of
Interesting.
palm is not an easy thing to measure. It seems easy when you teach it. It seems easy when you see it. It's pretty well defined in the book, but it all comes down to your established parallel line. And not every moose just acts like a goalpost. Some of them tip out, some of them do this, some of them are like that. And so you're trying to find parallel to the inside edge, and it takes time. And with a team, you can really sit there and lay a line down and see that. And so the other aspect of moose is not very many official measures get to measure a moose very often because they are just rare enough, drawing tags and going on hunts in areas where there is some expense and incurred, that we might get 40 moose turned in a year. And so 980 measures, maybe one measure more than one. I mean, we don't get to measure a lot. And so that's another great part of panel, is that it is sort of a soft audit to make sure that we're doing things right and we're training correctly. But everything on this moose, other than that determination of abnormal point and a different location of length of palm, everything was great.
Good. Good. Yeah, Robert has measured quite a few animals for me in the past, and he has quite a few more to measure in upcoming days and months. But he is a pretty conservative guy. I mean, he doesn't stretch it, and he just, so it doesn't surprise me in the least that it's that Robert's measurement was really close to what you guys came up
Sure.
with in panel.
And
Yeah,
I hope
very good.
I hope all entries that come into us are, right on. They, don't we don't want measures to be conservative or liberal on anything. It is what it is. Measure it for what it is. And so what's next on your list, Fred? I know that you spent a lot of time at your ranch in northern Texas, north central. What do you call that? The hills? What did you call that area the other day?
Oh, it's the Cross Plains
The
area,
Cross Plains
Cross
of
Plains
Texas.
region of Texas.
Do
Yes.
you guys have Cross Plains there in Kansas, Dylan?
No.
No. Okay.
Hmm.
I know you've got the ranch that you're working on. What other big hunts what are you looking at next?
Oh, I probably need to close my doors so my wife doesn't hear. She is home. No, it's good. It's all good. Uh, um, Greenland in 24. I hope to go to Greenland so I can knock out my central barren ground caribou. I am pursuing the Super Slam. I've got 3 species left. Um, I've got a stone sheep hunt booked for, well, it's been booked for a couple of years, actually. It was booked prior to COVID. And then we know what happened there. And so then I had a personal problem to where I couldn't go last year. And so it's rebooked for 25. So I'm
So what
very
you're saying is
excited.
you're going to go on another moose hunt.
No, sir. I'm not going on that trip. Not on this trip. No. Been there, done that. So
So stone sheep, central Canadian barren ground caribou.
correct. And I don't know what I'm going to do about. I've got another sheep left, which is a bighorn, Rocky Bighorn, but um, we all know the availability and the price of that. I've got several leads out there, places I can go. Um, and that might be the last one for me to pursue. It's kind of looking that way, unless something pops up between now and then. Yeah.
Unless you get lucky in one of the draws.
Maybe, but I may wind up doing a polar bear a third time. I guess not many people do that, but that's one of the hunts I really enjoy. And it can be tough, it can be brutal, it can be really cold, and it's 7 airplane flights between here and there where I go, and 7 back. So, and 2 overnight stays and all that. So it's a long haul. And
Sounds like it. Sounds like it.
yeah.
So when you're hunting all over North America, you're dealing with different outfitters, different guides for the outfitters. You're around other bow hunters, um, even even just on your regular public land hunts. What's your take on bow hunting today? What's our strength and our weakness? What are we concerned about? What do you think, Pope and Young? If you had an agenda for Pope and Young, what would you want to focus on if you if you had a say?
Well, which one of those questions you want me to answer first?
All of them.
All of them?
All the above.
Well, okay, write them down. So if I forget some, please remind me, okay? Um, so we all know one thing. I think we can all agree on one thing, that strength is in numbers, right?
Right.
I mean, whether it's an army or whatever, or trying to lift something, or, strength is in numbers. People need to get out there and support and join Hope and Young. If they're an archer, if they are a rifle hunter and have nothing to do with bow hunting, they need to join Boone and Crockett. They need to support these clubs because they support us. And I never dreamt as a young man that I would ever be sitting here talking to you guys, doing a podcast, have a world record, much less, I never dreamt I'd even have an animal in the Pope and Young record books. And there's as easy as people think it is to get a whitetail into the books. It's not easy. I know lots of people.
Are you looking at both of us right now? Was that a little jab? Did I even get jabbed there, Dylan?
Oh, hey,
wow.
You know what though, Tim? Dylan's a lot younger than both of us, so he's got more time. You, on the other hand, you better get busy, dude.
I know. Break a leg, right?
But I have invited you to my ranch, and even though we couldn't do it this year, what did you see? You saw the largest whitetail buck you've ever seen in your life at my ranch, right?
That I'd ever seen in a hunting situation.
On the hoof in a hunting situation. Yeah. So it's not easy.
Send me the location of that ranch. I'm on my way.
I sent you a pin already.
Oh no, you forgot the gate code, right?
Send it
uh,
to me, Tim. I'm on my way.
but yeah, we your organizations, these organizations need to be supported and not used and not abused. And Pope and Young's come a long way. And I think with the use of the internet, and you can do these podcasts such as this, we, Tim and I've spoken about a radio show. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be used now. And with your electronic record keeping, that's going to help a lot. And I think more and more people are going to learn um, more about Pope and Young, and you guys are going to become a lot more visible. And let's hope that the numbers of participants will grow and increase from now on.
Well, we sure hope so. We know it's a big goal of every organization out there to increase, grow, and retain membership, and giving them the most that we can give them for their dollars. Support is often there in mind and heart, and we often find reasons to fail to submit the check, fail to join. And we know it's not a monetary thing. We know that $45 is not the end of anyone who hunts, but the dedication to support it, and if you're one of those people that like to get involved, every organization is dying for that person. So
Right, right. And you do have a lot of people that are involved that do a great, wonderful job. And my
yes, we
hat's
do.
off to them because they're helping ensure that I am going to have a place to hunt in the future. Yeah, that means a lot. So,
You know what? What was most, I don't want to say exciting because it was a new world record, but what stuck out to me was how incredibly excited your wife was. She videoed the whole process. That was just so cool to see, man. The amount of support and the amount of she was genuinely excited that you killed a new world record. That was just really cool to see, man. And you even said on the video, it's not possible without her support. And so that was just really cool for me
yeah,
to see. So
she's a wonderful lady. And, the only thing sad about that is it took me many, many long years to finally find her or for us to find each other. But we're extremely glad that we have done that and that we get to live each and every day together. And so Frank and I had spent some time together, and we spent about 10 years hunting Coues deer down in Mexico before I finally had to call it quits and scream uncle. But um, Frank's a great guy, and we used to joke and tease, and he'd go, "Well, you're going to get married before me," and I go, "No, dude, you're getting married before me." Then he meets Millie and all this, and the way it turned out, I got married before Frank. So yeah, he's the winner. But he's married now, so we're both in the same boat. And even though I've never met Millie personally, I'm sure she's a wonderful woman to um, let Frank, go and uh, pursue his dream um, of chasing the super slams and entering in Pope and Young and doing everything he does. Yep.
yeah, Frank's a stud, man.
He
Yeah,
is. He is.
he's
You know,
crazy.
he is crazy. Him and I mean, I've got some mutual friends that have, you know, and we look at each other and go like, we can't even keep up with Frank, and don't even try. He's just got it over everybody. We're like, no, man, I don't even try to keep up with him. Congratulations, Frank. Go for it.
Yeah,
We give up. Yeah, he's something else.
that's cool. So what's been your favorite trophy, excluding the world record, that you have harvested so far?
Probably, probably this sheep that's sitting behind me on the floor. I guess probably that desert bighorn sheep that I harvested in Carmen Island, Mexico. Yeah, that was a really cool hunt, and I really enjoyed being there. And just they've got a lot of sheep there on the island. Believe me, anybody that's listening, it is not a cakewalk. It is a real hunt. You're going to hunt your butt off. It's very dry conditions. And I don't care if you go in January, February, March, whatever, it's still hot. It's still very hot. And nothing down there has leaves. Uh, Even if the tallest thing might be 6 or 8 foot tall, and come around noon, 12, 1 o'clock, you're looking for something to hide underneath, and there is nothing.
Yeah.
It's a brutal hunt. I remember the day that I was lucky enough to harvest my sheep, and we took all these pictures and packed him out, and we got back to the lodge. I just fell backwards and collapsed onto the bed from exhaustion and from relief. You know, the pressure's off. I got my sheep, and I'm laying there like this on my back. And then I forget which finger it was, but anyway, we'll use the end of the index finger. And it just started going, So what? I grabbed this finger and I straightened it back out. I was dehydrated, and my muscles were and tendons were just, acting in that manner. And so I just had to start downing water after water. I mean, you can only carry so much out there in the field with you. So yeah, it's a bona fide, difficult, tough hunt, and you earn every sheep that comes off that island or anywhere in Mexico or any sheep anywhere. You earn it. Believe me, there's no easy sheep.
Have you done all dad down there in Texas yet?
I have not. I have not done that. That's another difficult one because that terrain uh, does not lend itself to bow hunting. And those aoudad have wonderful eyes; they can see forever. And a lot of the bow hunters that have shot them, they're hunting on feeders or water holes or stuff like that. To go out and spot and stalk one is honestly, I don't know if anybody's done it and been
Yeah.
successful. I'm not sure with a bow. It's
Yeah.
tough, very difficult.
Yeah, they're very hard to hunt. I mean, even and I've never hunted them, but I've been on hunts for other stuff and you see them and dude, they are hard to get in bow range for sure.
They are. They're very smart and elusive, and their eyes, they just have sheep eyes. They
Yeah.
they can see forever.
And they can go places you can't.
That's
That's
a fact too.
yeah.
Absolutely. And
And everything in Texas just wants to hurt you. Like there's so many cactuses and thorns and everything there is designed and listen, a lot of times when you're finding all that up in the rocks, you're also encountering a whole lot of rattlesnakes,
yeah,
scorpions, like everything there, man. I love hunting Texas because it's literally like hunting a different country. Like it's like you step into a different world when you go to hunt Texas.
well, you're absolutely right, Dylan, and something that just happened recently. So after the convention, I called it in College Station, that I'd invited Tim out to my ranch, and so on one of the days, he said, "Do you mind if I just make a loop right here and walk around?" There was one particular area that Tim had been hunting he was interested in. I said, "I don't mind." I said, "Go for it." So he steps into the brush and makes this big loop, and he comes back about 20 minutes later, and we get in the Polaris, we start to drive away, and he's like, "Ow, ow, ow, ow." And I said, "What'd you do?" And he said, "I got all these thorns in my hands." And
Yep.
I said, "Well, yeah, welcome to Texas. You're not used to, uh, all these things that stick you and bite you." And he said, "Well, I don't remember. It's not mesquite. It's not cactus. He goes, oh yeah. All he did was simply grab some juniper bush limbs and stuff, to move them out of the way so he could get through because it's real thick. And those junipers, I don't know what they are. If they're thorns, Tim, maybe I don't know. They
Everything down there has a thorn. I don't know.
stick in your
I
hand.
hunted in Western Oregon a lot, and there's a lot of blackberries. It wasn't terribly thick. That wasn't the issue, but I didn't have any gloves on. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just moving what you call cedars out of the way, and I'm still picking little thorns out of my. That was dumb of me. I should have had gloves on.
But anyway,
So
yeah, that's Texas for
did you
you.
kill anything, Tim?
I did a lot of time.
Oh
Huh?
yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of time.
Yeah, what happened, Tim? I mean, the
Come
hogs
on,
were
Tim.
obviously coming into the feeder that you were
I
hunting.
must stink. I think it's me. I think I stink. I
You
don't
kind of
know.
smell like a hog, though.
Every single place there's hog sign everywhere. They've been rooting right there. They're hitting all the blind spots. So I go there and now they're over there. And I go there and now they're over there. And I don't know. Deer are covered up on me, so I couldn't stink that bad. I've got deer 10 yards from me.
So how
Just
big
no,
was the deer that you had come in that you said was the biggest deer you'd ever seen on the hoof?
I figured he's a 140 class buck. I've never hunted whitetail enough to see in a
Shoot
hunting
first,
situation.
shoot first, ask for forgiveness later. That's my
He was at
motto.
95. He was at 95 yards. I don't quite launch him like you do, Dylan.
Yeah, well, you'll get there one day.
Don't you shoot bullseyes at 95 yards with your recurve?
Not even close. I try to shoot bullseye at 20 yards with my recurve. That's my goal, and it just sometimes, they're just going everywhere.
I believe one thing is very true about shooting, and I'm not even remotely close to the best shooter out there. I wouldn't even step to the line with most people. But confidence. Confidence is everything. I think if you don't get in your head, I think muscle memory and just your subconscious, let it take over and shoot. We got there and Fred goes, "You gonna shoot your bow?" I go, "Yeah, I'll shoot it." I had shot it one day after breaking my leg before I went out there. It was shooting high, and I don't know why. We get there, pull back. Fred goes, "That's a brand new target I've got down there just for you. What is it? A Dell or
Glendale buck, I think.
a
Yeah.
Glendale buck? No marks in it, Dylan. X that son of a gun. I'm done. That's all
Right
the
in
confidence in
the
the world I needed. I was ready to rock and roll.
Dylan, he X'd that thing right in the foot, man. You should have seen it. Right in the foot.
So you just never saw any pigs? Like no pigs ever came to you?
We rolled out the first morning. They ran across one of the roads out there in front of us on the side by side. And I'm like, all right, it's on. And I never saw another pig.
No,
That's
that's not
called
true. You saw one from the blind.
Yes, I did. I did. I did. He was at quite some distance. Yes.
95 yards.
Now,
Yeah, I think that was maybe 96.
do you have
Maybe 96.
do you have javelinas out there, Fred?
I've heard tale that there were some to the north of us and they were kind of moving into the area, but short answer is no, we don't have any. Maybe they used to be there, but not now. Maybe in the future. There's no open space on javelina.
I was just shocked at how much water, not just on Fred's ranch, but how much water's down there, considering how dry and the perception of that country is. It just blows my mind how much water is there.
So Fred, one question we ask everybody. Every single person that's ever been on the show has been asked the same question.
I know what it is. Go ahead.
What's one non-traditional hunting item that you always have with you, whether you're killing new world records or whether you're chasing whitetails in Texas?
Man. And actually, I've actually put some thought into this, Dylan.
Nice.
And no, it's not nice, and I can't come up with anything. Well, no, wait a minute. I can. If I'm going on a walkabout after a mountain lion, right, which sometimes can lead to miles and miles on end, or in the mountains on a goat hunt or sheep hunt or whatever. I've had this problem since I was a young boy. I don't know what it is, but I'm really susceptible to horrific leg cramps the first day. And so I've run across a product that is an electrolyte drop. And so I put them in my water bottle. I never leave home without them. Comes in a little small 1 ounce bottle or something. And so for anybody that's got this problem, that electrolytes do exist and they should cure your leg cramps. This is something I had to find out, myself after many, many years of hunting in the mountains and having dealing with these leg cramps. So hopefully if someone hears this podcast and they have this issue, that this will help them. So that would be it. Yeah.
I was going to tell you, I found a product. It's by First Form, which is a supplement company. And we actually found them. I actually found them with Tim at a mountain archery fest. They were at a mountain archery fest. They're very hunter friendly, and they make electrolyte packs, and they come in little just individual. Rip the top off, pour in your drink. And I've been taking those
Right.
anytime I
Right.
hunt because they make you feel so much better because you're staying hydrated. You're everything you're sweating out, you're replenishing back. And so
Mhm.
I found those and helps a lot with dehydration, cramps, and they're just little bitty packs and just one in a water bottle. And man, I've loved taking those with me. So yeah, I found those at a mountain archery fest. So everybody should be taking electrolytes with them on the mountain, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I'm with you. One particular time, I was in Arizona on a mountain lion hunt, and the first day, we found ourselves in the mountains, and it snowed that night, and it temperature actually got down to like -1. And I said, "I'm in Arizona, and it's -1. Are you kidding me right now?" And so we didn't do any good there. So my outfitter says, "Well, let's go down to the desert and let's go hunt down there tomorrow." So okay, so we do that, and we stop and we're looking in this dry creek bed, and he runs across the mountain lion track, and he said, "Well, I'm going to turn a dog or two out. We're going to see the track may be a little old, but we're going to test it." So he turns a couple dogs out, and then they take off. He said, "Well, I'll turn out a couple more." So he does. One thing led to another. 11 miles later in one direction. No, I think that's a lie. So probably 5.5, 11-mile round trip. Anyway, 11 miles later, we have lost the cat. We're back to the truck, and the dogs are so tired and dehydrated because none of us had any water. We didn't plan to do that. We were just going to look around in the general area. And anyway, so the dogs wouldn't even jump in the truck. We had to put them in the truck. So we get back to the guy's house, and everybody gets out except for me. I tried to take one step out of the truck, and my legs just bam, they just hit me, and they just seized up like no tomorrow. I got the worst cramps. They were killing me. I asked someone to go in the house and get me my electrolytes and bring me some water. And I just poured this stuff into the water and I just started guzzling it. I had to sit there for about 30 minutes, and then I was good to go. And I turned around, stepped out of that truck, and I was fine. I can't stress it enough for people
Yeah.
to take some sort of electrolytes with them if they have any kind of problems from dehydration or just overexertion. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, what's your question?
Brett, I ask everybody if you had just one more hunt on the books available to do for you. Let me ask that all again. If you only had one more hunt that you could go do tomorrow, what species would it be?
Well, I'm going to answer that in a roundabout way. I'm going to start off by saying an elk is the most magnificent animal and the hardest to hunt, unless you get them stupid and you call them right into you. But outside of that, an elk is always on the other side of the herd. The wind's always blowing the wrong direction. An elk can be up in sheep country. I mean, they're just unbelievable. And so and they're majestic. They're so big. For that reason, I love to hunt elk. But there's something to be said about a sheep hunt when you're up in God's country, you're up in the mountains, you're as high as you can get at whatever elevation, and you can see forever. That just does something for me, just being there. So I would just have to say it'd be some sort of a sheep hunt. Yep.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Fred, thank you so much for coming on, man. Again, congratulations from all of us here at Pope and Young on a phenomenal bull and a new world record. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Y'all have a fantastic week.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Tim. And thanks to everyone in Pope and Young. And it's been awesome. Can't thank you enough.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.